The Fields of Normandy, June 12, 1944, just outside St. Lo, Normandy. A pale dawn mist hangs low over the hedgerows, curling like breath over the damp soil. The air hums faintly with the distant growl of engines, not the low, guttural snarl of panzers, but the higher, more persistent rumble of something else. Lieutenant Hans Kruger, commander of a Panzer IV platoon from the 2nd Panzer Division, lifts his binoculars above the hedgerow and freezes. Through the thin fog, a column of Sherman tanks rolls along a dirt road scarred with shell craters. Their olive-drab hulls are slick with dew, antennas swaying as they push through the tight, claustrophobic lanes of the bocage. Kruger counts 15, then 20, then more stretching beyond the curve of the road. He lowers his binoculars slowly, the disbelief plain in his face. "Schon wieder Shermans? More Shermans?" he mutters. 2 days ago, they had destroyed nearly a dozen in an ambush near Calmont, and yet here they are again, like the tide coming back in. Behind him, the German soldiers whisper nervously. The American advance was supposed to slow here, trapped by the thick Norman hedgerows, strangled by the terrain that favored defense. But something is wrong. The attacks don't stop. The columns keep coming. At the divisional command post, Major Erich Müller studies his map under the dim yellow light of a kerosene lamp. He says, "They're not withdrawing. They lose tanks and send more. Our Panther crews can barely get fuel, and they're replacing entire companies overnight." He doesn't say it aloud, but everyone in the room feels the same creeping realization. The Americans are fighting a different kind of war, one Germany was never built to sustain. Outside, artillery thunder rolls in from the west, and the faint drone of aircraft approaches. Kruger steps into the open and squints skyward. A formation of C-47s passes overhead, towing gliders, the sky filled with the black dots of parachutes descending far behind enemy lines. Reinforcements, supplies, fuel, everything the Wehrmacht can no longer replace fast enough. He knows then this isn't just another offensive. It's an entire machine at work.
The shock of endless reinforcements. June 20th, 1944, near Bocage. The air reeks of oil, gunpowder, and the sickly sweet stench of burned metal. Wrecked Shermans line the hedgerows, blackened hulks with turrets blown open, their crews buried nearby under makeshift crosses. For a moment, the battlefield seems silent, until the ground begins to tremble again. From the east, another column appears. Shermans, dozens of them, their tracks clanking, their engines echoing through the bocage like an advancing storm. A young German gunner in Müller's unit stares in disbelief. "Das ist unmöglich," he whispers. "That's impossible." They had just destroyed nearly every tank in sight that morning, and yet, by afternoon, replacements have arrived, fresh, clean, and fully fueled. Major Müller watches from the edge of the village, his face streaked with soot. He lowers his field glasses and mutters, "They fight with factories." That sentence spreads among the men, half awe, half despair. They had heard rumors that American factories in Detroit and Cleveland could produce more tanks in a month than all of Germany in a season, but it hadn't felt real until now. The evidence is right in front of them. Columns of Shermans grinding forward, each crew young, confident, and well-supplied. Across the lines, Sergeant Thomas O'Rourke of the 2nd Armored Division rides atop his Sherman, Lucky Strike, chewing on a cigarette butt. His crew laughs as they roll past wrecked German armor. The replacement process has been almost mechanical. They lose tanks, they get new ones. Each morning, the depot yards at Omaha Beach fill with fresh arrivals, engines still gleaming with factory oil. O'Rourke slaps the turret. He says, "They send us more tanks than we can count," half joking. But he isn't exaggerating. From June through July, more than 1,500 Shermans arrive in France. The U.S. Army doesn't just fight battles, it replaces them. In contrast, German tank crews scavenge. They strip parts from destroyed Panthers to keep the remaining ones running. A burned-out Panzer IV becomes a donor machine, its treads cannibalized, its turret gear removed under enemy fire. When a transmission fails, that tank is lost for good. There are no replacements coming from the Ruhr anymore. Allied bombers have seen to that. Mueller receives a radio report. Panther 221 immobilized, no spare gearbox available. Another message follows. Ammunition ration, 3 rounds per gun. He closes his eyes. Every battle now costs more than they can afford, and yet the Shermans keep coming. Line after line, steady, relentless, inevitable. By late June, the Germans begin referring to them grimly as Heusrecken, because when one wave falls, another rises behind it. As dusk settles, Mueller stands beside a burning wreck and watches the horizon. The orange glow of explosions flickers against the clouds. In the distance, a convoy of American supply trucks snakes forward, headlights dimmed, silhouettes endless. He turns to his adjutant and says quietly, "We cannot win against a country that makes war like this." The realization in the bocage. July 5, 1944, outskirts of St. Lo. Rain falls hard, drumming on the steel hull of a Panther hidden beneath a tangle of trees. Mud clings to everything: boots, treads, uniforms. The bocage country, with its sunken lanes and thick hedgerows, has become a maze of death. Visibility is 20 meters at best. Each turn could hide an ambush. Inside the Panther, Lieutenant Hans Kruger wipes condensation from the gun sight. His crew has been awake for nearly 36 hours. They've moved positions twice to avoid artillery, and now they wait. Every man inside listens, tense, straining through the rain and engine noise for that familiar mechanical rhythm. And then they hear it. A low, steady growl. Hundreds of engines, synchronized, unhurried. The sound swells and rolls through the valley like thunder. Kruger peers through his periscope and spots them, columns of Shermans again, emerging from the mist, supported by half-tracks and infantry in long lines. It's not the number alone that terrifies him. It's the organization. Everything moves with the machine's precision, like an assembly line advancing through the countryside. He fires. The Panther 75mm cannon roars, recoil jolting the crew. One Sherman erupts in flame. Another halts, smoking. But before the echoes fade, 3 more roll forward, their guns turning toward his position. A ricochet clangs against the turret, showering sparks inside. Kruger barks, "Zurück, rückwärts." Reverse. The driver slams the gears. They retreat behind the hedgerow, heartbeats hammering. Outside, the earth shakes as American artillery begins its work. The sky splits open with the whine of incoming shells, 105s, 155s, and naval guns from ships miles offshore. The ground itself seems to breathe, expanding and collapsing under the bombardment. The Germans once believed the bocage would favor defense, but the Americans have adapted faster than anyone imagined. Engineers now use bulldozers and explosive charges to tear open hedgerows, creating tank lanes through what was once impenetrable. By afternoon, the battlefield looks nothing like Normandy once did. The hedges burn, the roads churn into brown rivers of mud, and through it all the Shermans keep advancing, one after another, as if the land itself can't stop them. At divisional headquarters, Major Mueller studies intercepted Allied reports. What he reads shakes him more than any shelling. The Americans are landing new divisions weekly, entire armored groups, each equipped with hundreds of fresh tanks, replacement parts, engines, transmissions, even spare tracks, all flowing in through the artificial harbors at Omaha and Utah beaches. The sheer logistics defy belief. He thinks of Germany's own situation: factories flattened in the Ruhr, fuel trains destroyed, skilled labor drafted to the front. Each new Panther costs more to build and ship than 3 Shermans combined, and each loss now is irreplaceable. A messenger enters, soaked from the rain. "Major," he says quietly, "the last 2 Panthers from 3rd Company are gone. One hit a mine, the other ran out of fuel and was abandoned." Mueller doesn't respond. He stares at the map, the shrinking lines, the encircled units,
the endless arrows pointing westward. He knows the truth. The Reich is fighting an industrial empire, not just an army. That night, as lightning flashes over the ruins of Saint-Lô, Kruger writes a letter to his wife. His handwriting trembles as he admits what no soldier dares to say aloud. They fight with machines that never stop coming. We destroy them, but they return, stronger, newer. Perhaps this is what defeat sounds like. Not silence, but the roar of engines you cannot silence.
The Breaking Point. Operation Cobra, July 25, 1944, Saint-Lô, Normandy. The sky is alive with thunder, not from a storm, but from thousands of Allied bombers. Waves of B-17s and B-24s blanket the horizon, their silver bellies glinting in the sun. Below them, the German lines brace for what will become one of the most devastating aerial bombardments of the war. Major Erich Mueller crouches beside a shattered farmhouse, his field glasses trembling in his hands. The air pressure changes, a deep, rising vibration that grows until it becomes unbearable. "Junta!" he shouts. "Down!" The ground disappears in fire. The first bombs fall short. Then the rest strike true, an iron storm that rips through fields, forests, and men alike. The bocage that once protected them now becomes their tomb. In mere minutes, the front line of Panzerlehr Division ceases to exist. When the smoke clears, Mueller looks out over a landscape unrecognizable. Tanks flipped on their sides, men wandering shell-shocked through craters, communication lines severed. His radio crackles with fragments of voices, none coherent. And over that chaos another sound rises, the unmistakable grind of engines. The Shermans are coming again. They emerge through the haze, dozens first, then hundreds. The 2nd and 3rd Armored Divisions spearhead the assault, each battalion seemingly endless. American engineers had carved through the bocage with their new invention, the Rhino tank modification, steel prongs welded to the front of Shermans to smash through hedgerows like paper. It's not just the firepower, it's the momentum. For the first time since D-Day, the Americans are no longer bogged down. They're surging forward, columns flowing like rivers of green steel across open ground. Kruger, his Panther now scarred and leaking oil, fires until his ammunition dries dry. His loader collapses from exhaustion, ears bleeding from the concussions. Around them, German defenses disintegrate. The once feared panzers retreat, not from lack of courage, but from absence of supply, fuel, and hope. In the following hours, the German front shatters. Thousands of soldiers fall back towards Coutances, pursued relentlessly by armor and air power that seemed to operate as one machine. For every Sherman destroyed, another 2 roll off the beachhead. For every German tank lost, another irreplaceable crew vanishes. By evening, the roads are choked with wrecks and retreating men. The Luftwaffe is nowhere to be seen. Fuel shortages have grounded them. The once proud Wehrmacht, masters of blitzkrieg, now find themselves on the receiving end of it. Mueller sits in a foxhole, his uniform blackened by soot. He watches a column of Shermans pass through what was once his command post. Their engines hum steadily, their crews laughing through open hatches. The banner on the lead tank reads, "Hell on Wheels." He feels a strange calm, not anger, not even fear, just awe. Awe at what an industrial democracy can do when it decides to fight a total war. The sheer scale of it defies comprehension. Assembly lines churning 24 hours a day, convoys crossing the Atlantic unbroken, armies supplied as if by an invisible hand. He whispers, almost to himself, "For every tank we destroy, they build 10 more." His adjutant stares blankly, mud streaked across his face. "Then how do we stop them, Herr Major?" Mueller doesn't answer, because he already knows the answer. They can't. As night falls over the smoking ruins of Normandy, the Americans press south towards Avranches. Operation Cobra has broken the stalemate. The German 7th Army is collapsing, and from every hedgerow, every road, every horizon, the same echo follows, the rumble of Sherman tanks that refuse to stop. Germany's commanders will later call it the moment we understood we were beaten, not by strategy, but by production.
The realization, Factories versus Faith. August 3, 1944, near Morton, western Normandy. Rain beats against the windshield of a staff car as Major Eric Mueller's unit withdraws under cover of darkness. The road ahead is choked with wreckage. Half-tracks burned to husks, horses collapsed in harness, the stench of fuel and cordite heavy in the air. Every kilometer feels like retreat from another century. In a roadside barn, Lieutenant Hans Kruger's surviving crew huddled beside a broken radio. The Panther is gone, abandoned for lack of fuel. Kruger's hands still tremble from the vibration of the gun. His loader, barely 20, stares blankly at the floor. Through the open doorway, distant flashes light up the night. Artillery again, closer this time. "They'll be here by dawn," Kruger mutters. Outside, the rumble of engines swells. That same relentless sound they've heard for weeks. It's the Americans again, pushing east, their supply lines impossibly intact. No gaps, no pauses. Mueller arrives moments later, soaked and hollow-eyed. He says, "Orders from Corps. We're to counterattack toward Morton at first light." Kruger stares at him, stunned. With what? Mueller doesn't reply. Everyone knows the truth. The counterattack will be suicide, but Berlin insists. They still speak of miracles, of new weapons, of faith. Mueller knows what faith costs when it meets an assembly line. At dawn, the counterattack begins. The 2nd SS Panzer and remnants of the 116th Panzer Division roll forward through fog-covered hills. For a moment, the battlefield feels like 1940 again. Steel tracks clattering, black crosses glinting faintly. Then the fog lifts. Across the valley, Shermans line the ridges in staggering numbers, supported by Thunderbolt fighters circling above. Radios buzz in perfect coordination. Artillery adjusts by the minute. The first German column disintegrates under rocket fire. Another is bracketed by naval guns 30 miles away. Kruger dives for cover as a rocket detonates nearby, the concussion flattening grass and men alike. His world becomes smoke, dust, and ringing silence. When he rises, the field that had once held 20 panzers now held none. He sees it clearly now. This isn't just battle, it's manufacture. The Americans fight with a rhythm, a tempo set not by generals, but by factories. Where Germany sends men and machines built by hand, America sends divisions built by process. That evening, in what's left of a command post, Mueller receives intercepted reports from Allied logistics officers. He reads aloud in disbelief. Detroit Tank Arsenal, output steady at 1,000 Shermans per month. Liberty ships delivering vehicles directly to Normandy beaches. Spare parts delivered within 72 hours of request. He lowers the paper slowly, voice hoarse. This is their real weapon. Not the tank, not the gun, this. The ability to build without stopping. Kruger looks out the shattered window. In the distance, an endless convoy of Shermans crawls forward, their silhouettes black against the burning sky. The war has become mechanical, inevitable, and the men of Germany are caught inside its gears. August 8th, the Morton counterattack collapses. The Allied advance becomes a flood. Within days, the Falaise pocket begins to form, a steel trap closing on the remnants of the 7th German Army. For Mueller, it's the final confirmation. The Reich has lost its war of attrition before it even began. No genius of tactics can compensate for the silence of dead factories. No courage can refill empty fuel tanks. As he burns his orders and prepares to withdraw toward the sign, he writes one last line in his field notebook. The same thought that now echoes through every surviving officer's mind. We built our tanks with precision. They built theirs with purpose. And purpose will always outlast precision. The last light fades over Normandy. The fields that once echoed with Panzer engines now hum with Shermans rolling eastward, an endless tide of steel and manpower that Germany can neither match nor stop. The war has changed. The world has changed. And for the first time, every German commander knows it.